Sadistic Penguin Studios presents the At the Show podcast with Tom Yumper Garcia.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
And Tony Tulsa Burt.
I don't know this industry jargon, YP, MP, whatever, okay? All I know is that I cannot get a record contract. We cannot get a record contract unless I take these tapes.
It's almost time, so grab a drink, get your popcorn ready, and join the film discussion with two guys from Chicago talking movies.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the At the Show podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tom Yumper Garcia, and I'm with my other co-host, Tony LaChalsa Burt. How you doing, my man?
Doing real good. How are you doing this evening?
I am existing.
That is definitely a way to live.
Yes. This week is just it sucked, but I'm here to talk some movies, which is always a good thing.
It is. It sounds like you've been going through like what they call those practices before we get started in football, like the long two-a-days, practices.
Yes, that's how it feels. Life is kicking my ass right now, but always a good time to talk some movies with everyone and get to have some fun, right, man?
I am excited. We got a lot of good movies to cover tonight that I think is going to cure my, yours, or anyone else's blues, because it's definitely some hilarity, and it's gonna be good, man. It's gonna be real good.
Yes, for sure, my man, for sure. Tone, so we decided to go with some football movies this week because football has started. It's becoming probably the main talk and main focus of most people in the sports world, as well as kind of like that time where Thanksgiving's coming up, and we usually get those big football games coming up on Thanksgiving. Towards the end of the year, you get to those bowl games with college football, even though I don't really watch college besides Illini football. But we wanted to, Sam kind of threw me off with his little comment here. But we wanted to
I don't want your life. I'm just
Yes.
saying that this whole
we wanted to talk some football movies, which can be, I guess, taken in many contexts as the word football.
That's true, and that's what's really hilarious is I actually biffed it, and then I actually realized, hold on a minute, I could sell this one, so it's going to be good. It's going to be some good stuff tonight.
Yes, sir. It's going to be some good stuff. But let's get into our first segment, my man, and let's go into what we have been watching this week.
Let's get to it.
That's a me. And also, what were you just watching?
So what were you watching this week, my man?
Two movies I've watched this weekend, total polar opposites of type of films, but the first one I watched was Outland, a movie that stars one Sean Connery, Peter Boyle, directed by Peter Hyams, who has directed such classics as Sudden Death, The Relic, End of Days, Running Scared, the sequel to 2001, A Space Odyssey, 2010, the year we made contact. Peter Hyams. This movie kind of gets lost a little bit in the fold of his catalog. Released in 1981, it is pretty much like a space Western. And definitely, if you are a fan of, well, you brought him up last week, the strong silent type, Gary Cooper, this movie is pretty much a playoff of High Noon, Gary Cooper's classic from 1952. But this movie itself is really awesome because of just the performances by everyone in here, from Peter Boyle and Sean Connery to also some other great performances by like James Sicking and Kika Markham. But you could see just right here in this clip and here in this performance, if you're not familiar with who Peter Boyle is, a great musical tie-in was John Lennon was the best man at his wedding. That John Lennon, yes, from the Beatles, but he's also the dad from I Love Raymond, which had a couple laughs here and there.
Drop by my office. We'll talk some more. I'll do that.
The whole movie is pretty much them two going head to head up in space. So if you're looking for good action and actually a really good intimate setting set right on the moon of Jupiter. Check out Outland. It's a good one. You ever hear this one yet?
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it in so long. I really couldn't tell you like any parts that stuck out to me. So it'll be a movie I would have to go back and look into.
Yeah, it's really a good one if you like Sean Connery. One, like I said, it gets kind of lost in the fold. A lot of cool. I like movies like this because generally you think of outer space, you think aliens are going to be involved, but it's generally just a really cool story about like a power play up in space, which is actually refreshing because you don't see too many space westerns, especially with Sean Connery. The next movie that I watched, the direct polar opposite, is Let's Go to Prison, a movie that is directed by Bob Odenkirk, to me, a legend in so many different ways, from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad all the way to Mr. Show, which is just one of the greatest sketch comedy series of all time, but directing in the directing spot, and also really cool, written by Thomas Lennon, who you may be familiar with, the great The State that was on MTV in the early 90s, but also Reno 911 also popped in. Great performances in I Love You Man, which we've talked about on this show before. But the movie itself, Let's Go to Prison, is honestly might be one of the most ridiculous movies I might have ever seen in my whole entire life. The cast is really actually pretty cool and deep for a movie that with the subject matter, which is pretty much a guy who pretty much is a big jerk who pretty much gets in trouble and has to go to prison, but pretty much his life gets made into, well, turns into total hell.
Someone might describe a situation that's unpleasant or confining as being like a prison. This is what they're referring to.
So much dark humor in this movie, but honestly, really ridiculous is the performance of one of my favorite actors of all time as Leonard, Michael Shannon, as the sadistic leader of the White Kingdom. Just really, really ridiculous. Chi McBride does a really, really great job in this. Dylan Baker could go on forever. It's a good movie that if you just are looking to just, well, have some laughs, I enjoy this one.
Yeah, it's a pretty funny one. It's definitely out there. Big fan of Bob, the guy from Better Call Saul. I can't say his last name correctly for some reason. I can't pronounce it, but good dude. Also, it's got the guy from that Ashton Kutcher show, Punked.
Oh, yep.
He's married to the chick from forgetting Sarah Marshall. I can't even think of their names right now. What the hell's going on? Zach, what's his name? Zach, you know who I'm talking about.
In
Let's Go to Prison. He's his cellmate.
Oh, you're talking about Dax Shepard.
Dax Shepard, thank you.
Dax Shepard. Yeah, I'm sorry.
He's married to Kristen Bell.
I was thinking that was a moment of me overthinking that right there. I'm like, who? Yeah, Dax Shepard. He does a good job in this movie. It is out there though. It's really, really out there. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. Dak Prescott. No. That guy, he has no knee. That guy has no knee. But so I watched two very, very vastly different films this week. The first was I was thinking about watching The Ninth Gate for a long time, but with the 31 Days of Horror, I really couldn't get into watching new movies. I had to go back to the old ones. Even though this is an older movie, I hadn't seen it in a very, very long time. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Roman Polanski, the person. I do like Rosemary's Baby, and this film is actually his second trip into the occult world of The Ninth Gate, which was released, I believe, in 1999, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a film with Johnny Depp, Frank Langella, and like it's, to be honest with you, it has so many twists and turns. You kind of know what's going on. You're constantly, it's not a slow burner at all. It's constantly pushing forward with a narrative of him finding this book that's supposedly written by the devil. He's comparing it to the other books around the world. It's off a book called Ninth Gate, Gates of Shadows but it's actually really interesting. Does it hold up to how I felt the first time I saw it? No, but it's still very, very entertaining, and it's not one of those scary films where you're, scared of it. It's more of a suspenseful mystery film. I wouldn't really consider this a horror film in any film. It's more of a suspense film, but it is enjoyable. I actually like the finished it up today in the morning, while I was doing some work, and it's actually a nice little, coast, to watch because you can stop and look and see what's going on, and it's very, it keeps you drawn in the attention of the viewer, which is something that most movies these days really can't do. Have you seen this one, Tone?
Oh, I love this movie. I love this movie quite a lot. I remember specifically 1999. I think you are correct in the year it came out. Going to see it in the movie theater, and it was it's like 8 of us, and it was cool because well, half of them were girls, and I'm like thinking to myself when we were going to see this movie, this is gonna bomb. This isn't gonna go well. Everybody enjoyed the movie. This is around the time too, like American Psycho came out. And what I like about The Ninth Gate, there are a couple of humorous jokes in this movie that are actually really, really funny, but you have to be paying attention. And Johnny Depp does a really good job in this movie, I think. Really, really good job actually as the lead. And honestly, just his name too, Dean Corso, I just enjoy a lot. But I enjoy, as you stated, it's like a ride from the very beginning. The way it starts, the music score is really, really good in the film. I like where, not to give anything away, but where it ends because trying to find those books and stuff, just really, really great.
Humble brag, Tony hung out with the girls.
Watching movies like this, yeah, it was pretty shocking.
And Sam says the movie's gonna bomb. Maybe I'll be able to make out with one of the girls, Tony.
It didn't work. And I mean, I could give you a flip story when me and another guy decided that we were going to buy us 4 extra Goo Goo Doll tickets because we were going to find 4 girls to come with us to Goo Goo Dolls, and we found no girls, and we ended up throwing these Goo Goo Doll tickets like in the parking lot as we had to go sit in this concert and be pissed off because we didn't find any girls. So it works sometimes. It did not work for other times. So the Ninth Gate girls coming to the Ninth Gate, boy, that was a shock. And I couldn't get them to go to the Goo Goo Dolls.
I wouldn't go to Goo Goo Dolls either, but
well, I mean, in 1998, Yumper, and you're in high school. If you weren't going and you didn't want to go with the girls, and you were going to be that picky over the bands, I would have ditched you probably too. You would,
yeah, the Goo Goo Dolls, yeah, definitely would have gone that.
You could stay at home.
Definitely would have liked it to stay at home. So another film that I watched this week was actually inspired by the new Drafty Pod that came out this Tuesday. They were talking about comedians, and Brian had been telling us he was getting Sam on and Nick Morawski on for the draft. After I did a show on Sunday, I was thinking about just comedians and films I haven't seen in a while. And me growing up, one of my biggest influence is into the art of movies or shorts was the Three Stooges. But before I discovered the Three Stooges, I actually watched this film at my aunt's. It was my dad's great aunt through marriage. We used to go to her house every Sunday, every couple weeks, and she lived in Lamont, and we lived in the city. And they always had this film called March of the Wooden Soldiers, and it had Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy in it, and it was a kids movie, but it had like a puppet Mickey Mouse. So it was like all like wacky stuff, and it got me into Laurel and Hardy. And then I saw Way Out West with them, and then eventually transitioned into the Three Stooges, which, when we talk about comedy trios, we always mention either Three Stooges, or we talk about duos, Abbott and Costello. But Oliver and Hardy really don't get mentioned as much as they should when they were really influential in bringing comedy to the big screen. They were like probably 2 of the biggest stars in the 30s. And unfortunately, when they got into the 50s and they kind of, their fame dwindled. This film was actually when they went out in the 50s to a trip overseas to perform their last show, like live 2-man show. And to be honest, it's masterfully done. It's the reason it didn't get recognized in the US is because it's more of a international film, But Steve Coogan and John C. Riley are excellent as both Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy. They play them like Steve Coogan and Stan Laurel's mannerisms. He plays them perfectly. Like I've seen shot by shot comparisons of them doing their dances, their skits, and it's complete. It's like it's beautifully done. They played really big tribute. The film also picks up on a little bit of dramatic effect, even though it's not real between the two, as they were best friends. But this film is like excellent tone. Like I really love it. It's kind of sad because you know the ending of what happens to Oliver Hardy towards the end of his life, as well as just the bond between him and Stan Laurel. How when Hardy passed away, Laurel refused to perform with anybody else and basically retired. But until his death, was actually still writing material for the two duel, even though his partner was long gone. It's tragic, but it's a nice memento and tribute to these two comedians that kind of get lost, in the shuffle when we talk about the icons, and they should get more credit than they should. I have a video coming out probably with next week on this film with a little more in-depth analysis on it, which I already recorded voiceover. I just have to do the editing for the video. But I love this film. It's I discovered it when it came out in 2018, and I still watch it just to because I'm in awe of everything that goes on in it. Have you seen this film?
I watched it way back when it came out. Don't remember a lot about it, but I do remember that the performances were great. And as Sam stated, Steve Coogan is awesome. I could talk about Hamlet too for about 17 hours in a row. So I'll watch him in anything. And of course, John C. Riley, great actor. He has gotten sidetracked with doing things with Will Ferrell and more comedy, but generally when you come down to it, his bare bones is actually being a really good actor, and he's great in this. And as you stated, it's I think we've had these conversations, and I don't remember. I like biographies. If you could pull it off and get good actors to do it really well, and I don't know the stuff like this or don't know it enough, you got me sold. It could be about music. It could be about, I love the movie Hidden Figures. You take any movie and it could be a true story, but it's the performances. Are you selling me on the story? And from what I remember, this is definitely one of those. So I'll definitely have to check it out. And I'm a big fan of some of these other actors in the movie too, like Danny Houston. Danny Houston's great. Shirley Henderson. Just a lot of really good performances from what I remember. So definitely go check it out again.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, definitely check it out. I think it's like you could buy it for $3, rent it from Amazon Prime. It's definitely worth the buy. Like I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it's beautifully done, nice timepiece. But yeah, it's some film that doesn't get talked about enough. And I remember when they were promoting it, they were on all the talk shows, and you could really tell that the two comedians, and actors really, really cherished these two icons of the comedy industry. Just a good film.
Very good picks, man. Very good picks all around.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. So that is what we watched this week. Let us know what you watched over at the Show Pod. We are on Blue Sky at sadisticpenguin.bksy.social, I guess it's called. But we are on Blue Sky. You can check us out there. And also, I'm at Lil Yumper on Blue Sky. And Tony, what are you on Blue Sky? The Chelsea?
Tony Chalza.
Tony Chelsea.
Back. Chalza's back.
Chelsea's back.
Also, if you want, we got to get a code, and maybe we can set up an after show one.
Oh yeah, we could do that too.
We'll get that. We'll get that all to you. Find us over there. That's going to be one of the places. Yeah.
We have been kind of transitioning over there, but that's what we watched this week. Some good films, man. A total potpourri, as I say.
Honestly, you could call me over and be like, dude, come into my movie theater. We're watching these 4 movies back to back to back to back. And I'm going to say, okay, I got to get some popcorn and nachos because, man, we're going to have a good time.
For sure, man, for sure. Before we get into our films that we are our main event of the evening, I want to, again, let everybody know that we are having a shirt that is for sale to help out our buddy Gordo. As for those who haven't known, Gordo is going to be undergoing a pretty serious surgery, and he's going to need some help with his medical bills. I believe he meets the doctor, I believe Monday, if I'm not mistaken, to get his surgery date, and then he's going to find out when he'll go under, and then he has his under, and he's going to be basically having a hopefully a speedy recovery, but those medical debts going to mount up and we want to help him out. So if you buy a shirt, all proceeds go to Gordo. I'm going to drop the link in the chat here. All proceeds go to Gordo. We already raised a nice chunk of money for him, but every little bit counts towards our guy. He's been a big supporter of us, the Bums, as well as the 108. Really, really good dude. We hang out with him like whenever we see him. And he always tweets me to hack into people's accounts because he wants me to be a hacker because I work with computers. But shout out to Gordo. Be sure to buy the Gummy Strong shirt for him to support him. We love you, my man.
Yeah, I mean, excellent dude. Please do this because if you don't and you run into Yumper at possibly a Sox game, this is good. This is actually going to be Yumper.
I'm not mad.
If you do not get one, so maybe get one.
Yeah, get one from our guy Gordo. Well, Tone, now it's time to get to the main event. I know there's a big fight on tonight, so I do kind of want to watch the fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson when they fight with those big pills on their hands, since they're fighting with 16-ounce gloves. So let's get to our main event and let's get into these football movies, my man.
Let's get to it.
All right, let's start off with our first one.
Dad, we ain't moving. You killed him, Icebox. Hey, Rudy, you okay? Oh, Rudy. Oh.
Peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Are you nuts?
It's still good.
You'll never get anywhere treating your helmet like a lunchbox, son. What is that? Cheetos. Crunchy or puffed? Puffed. Wimp.
1994's Little Giants, directed by Dwayne Dunman. The way he spells his name is great. Is Dwayne Dunham. Known for being an editor on Star Wars 5, 6, and Bill and Ted's Adventure. Excellent Adventure. So he didn't really have too many big motion pictures, but he did a lot of editing. The film stars Rick Moranis, Ed O'Neill, Shawana Waldron, Devin Sawa, and Sam Horrigan. The movie had a box office of 19 million and a budget of 20 million. So this one is a loser in the box office. This is one of my picks. This is a film I grew up with my brother, and the way I discovered this film is pretty crazy. I don't know if you remember the store in the backyards. I don't know if there was one by you, Tone, but there was a store called Omni, which is like a grocery store.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So Omni was open, and every time we went shopping, like it used to be a thing where me and my brother used to go with my mom grocery shopping. I think it was every Tuesday. When we would go, they would have like the little TVs in the electronics department, and this movie would be playing. And we never knew what it was until we saw it at the video store and rented it. And then we eventually bought it, and we watched it like all the time. Hot Hands, Icebox, Ed O'Neill in a kids movie. He was mostly known for Al Bundy at the time. Rick Moranis. This is one of my favorite kids movies growing up, and it has a ton of football in it. And it's still pretty hilarious till today. Have you seen this one?
Oh yeah, I mean, nostalgia is a crazy thing because I mean, honestly, you remember the video store, it being able to be rent. I remember seeing the box. I mean, you could say it was a failure, I guess, at the box office, which you're right. But as far as being remembered in my mind, when you picked it at the top of your list, I was literally saying to myself, this is a classic. This is like a football version of some of the baseball movies we talked about earlier in the baseball series. I mean, season. You got two great performances. We could do a whole show, which I'm sure we will one day, on Rick Moranis. Mm-hmm. And then you got Ed O'Neill, who, of course, is great in everything I've seen him in. A great Thanksgiving movie that he's in is Dutch.
But yes.
That being said, it's a really great, when you could get to a sports movie where you can get, I don't want to even use the word, the cliche opposite coaches, two sides, but it plays so well. It's like my version. It's like a lot of like those erotic thrillers, all you need is two people and they're doing exactly what you want them to do when you're watching this movie. And that's these two. It's kind of crazy. I compared an erotic thriller to Little Giants, but I guess I'll have to look at myself later in the mirror for that. But
wow. The funny thing is, when I was reading like research for this film, and there really isn't a lot. I mean, it's a kid's film, but the story is that Rick Moranis is a single dad with his daughter. Basically, he kind of raised her as a tomboy. which she got into football, and not Kevin O'Neill. Ed O'Neill is his brother named Kevin, who is a like former player, hometown hero. And they kind of clash, he's a dorky one. He kind of is like the black sheep, and his brother's like the famous one. Well, the original story called for the mom to die on Rick Moranis' side of his character, and they actually rewrote it to where the mom left him out of respect for Rick Moranis because his wife had actually previously passed within the past 2 years. They wanted to be respectful to him, not to have to act it out, which I thought was pretty cool by the writing team. Also, Gary Busey and Randy Quaid were originally cast as the leads.
Ooh, that would have been a lot of fun.
Can you imagine Gary Busey going apeshit on like little kids or football? This is after the accident, Gary Busey. So I'm guessing he was like crazy. This. It reminds. You ever see this movie called Surviving the Game?
Oh, I love Surviving the Game. I mean, one of the jokes we used to make the whole time. Never mind. I will
Prince
talk
William
about it
Stout?
later. We can go off for on
Prince Henry Stout.
There's a scene where like they're like because the one kid who's like out there with his dad, he's like one of the ones hunting him or whatever, and they throw the guy over like the cliff or whatever, and the kid's like,
Yeah,
it's like the biggest weasel I've ever heard.
yeah,
But great movie though. Gary Busey, I mean, Silver Bullet, man.
yeah. But that film, Surviving the Game, he has a monologue where he talks about his dog as a kid, and me and my brother still laugh
This
about
was
that.
if somehow Silver Bullet was like a spin-off of this, and Quarry was one of the little giants, and well, Busey was the coach.
Oh God, like Gary Busey after the accident. But yeah, this film is awesome. It has John Madden, of course, appears in it. You have the annexation of Puerto Rico as the last play. Henry Shearer is the announcer for the game. It's got like everything, and you got Spike, who eventually goes on to become a roller skater in Brink. As the football player. It's an enjoyable game movie, and it's pretty funny. Funny then and still funny, kind of as an adult. So
Yeah,
good stuff.
yeah, definitely. And like I said, it's cool for me. It's kind of same thing with music. Like I don't like outgrow a band that I've listened to. You just kind of keep it around, and this is what this movie is. You can go back to it and still enjoy some of the same laughs you did the first time you saw it.
Yeah, for sure. So if you haven't seen this one, check it out. It's worth it, and it is a football movie. But let's get into your film, Tone.
They think they are gonna gut you and leave you laying on the highway with your insides hanging out so that the goddamn buzzes can eat your no-playing asses. Coach, you're gonna have a stroke. I don't get strokes, motherfucker. I give them.
1999's Any Given Sunday, directed by Oliver Stone, who also directed films such as Platoon, Wall Street, Born on the 4th of July, The Doors, Natural Born Killers, and Nixon. The film stars Al Pacino, Cameron Diaz, Jamie Foxx, LL Cool J, James Woods, and Dennis Quaid. It had a box office of $100 million on a $55 million budget with $192,000 in home entertainment sales. Tone, tell me why you picked this one.
What the most amazing thing is when you bought the original DVD copy, it came with the music video on there for Willie Beeman, and we would just watch the music video over and over because it's the most ridiculous. The movie is ridiculous. It's huge. To me, I don't know if there's a bigger like in grandeur sports movie. I mean, it just seems huge in scale. Lots and lots of actors doing lots and lots of ridiculous things. Going from, I mean, you could just pick this all out. James Woods, ridiculous. Matthew Modine, ridiculous. Al Pacino, really, really ridiculous. It even's got the guy who, and I don't know his name off, and I'll figure it out here in a second, but the dude who's in the program, the big muscular dude, what's his name?
Yeah, I have his name.
I'll figure it out here in a second.
Andrew Radinsky.
But like to see him even bigger in this movie, it just really big in scale. And I've seen pretty much every Oliver Stone movie, and this movie, it does feel like an Oliver Stone movie in one way, and in another way it kind of feels like a Michael Bay movie. It feels very big and loud. And I always found it really interesting that the names of the football teams, obviously they couldn't get the real name, so always interesting, ridiculous names for some of the football teams, but very big in scale.
For sure, very big in scale. His name was Andrew. Oh my God, you're making me pronounce this name. Brian Narski.
Yeah, that's what it is. I can look at Brian Narski.
Yeah, that guy is fucking gigantic. This film cracks me up because of the speech that Al Pacino gives. They consider it like a very inspirational speech. I always makes me laugh because it's the Al Pacino yell. Like this is the way he talks. When doing research for this, Tony, I found that Mr. Oil himself, Sean Diddy Combs, was actually cast as Willie Beeman, and apparently he had scheduling conflicts. But they said that he was so horrible at playing a quarterback, he couldn't throw the ball, that it was glad he left. So I'm guessing maybe they told him to leave and he used scheduling conflicts but when Jamie Foxx took over, they said it was like a natural fit. He's a natural athlete. Jamie Foxx is very talented musically and as an actor. The names in this film are like ridiculous. Like Cat Rooney is Dennis Quaid. And
Dennis Quaid is overly top, really. I don't want to say
Quaid.
Bad. I don't want to even say bad, but just the way he acts in this movie is it's too much at times.
Yeah, apparently for Jamie Foxx's role, Willie Beeman, they tried to get Chris Tucker, who turned down the role. For Tony D'Amato, which is actually Al Pacino's role, they offered it to Robert De Niro, who turned it down. Originally, Warner Bros. Wanted Clint Eastwood to actually be in the role, but he wants to direct it, and they're like, no, you can't do that because we're giving it to Stone. And Pacino was her second choice, and he happily agreed to take it because he was tired of playing gangsters and police officers, apparently. Also, this film comes with one of the best songs from LL Cool J, I Shut 'Em Down. And one of the best movie stories was when Jamie Foxx went on TV and said that LL Cool J was taking his role too serious as the running back to the point where they got into fights on set because he's acting like you really think you're a damn player? And they started fighting to where LL punched him in the face, and apparently now they're friends.
And just honestly, it's ironic that we bring it up because announced just this week, coming to Netflix January 17th, Cameron Diaz is coming back to the screen with Jamie Foxx in an action movie called Back in Action. So I always like to hear the stories because that means that obviously from way back here, they had some connection to keep them working on a brand new movie, which mean that they've obviously had a positive experience on this.
Well, he says baby oil makes the pigskin slippery. Yes, it does, my man. But that speech I was just telling you about, telling that Pacino makes his final rallying speech for the team before the playoff game is based on the rallying speech real-time NFL coach Marty Schottenheimer gave the Cleveland Browns during the AFC Championship game in 1989.
Very awesome.
Did they win that game?
Marty Schottenheimer game? No.
Yeah. They didn't win.
No, that Marty Schottenheimer
couldn't just win.
I see him with his glasses right now standing there on the sideline when they'd get all foggy, when it would be rainy, and I'd be like, this guy looks lost. But he was not a bad coach, I guess. He just sometimes looked lost.
Yeah, they lost to Denver 37 to 21. And whoever went against the team was going up against San Francisco, who just demolished 55-10 against Denver. Wow. That's hilarious, though. Sam says he's only seen it once, didn't care for it. It's a hit or miss film. Definitely is. Oliver Stone's films are hit or miss. A lot of them. James said knock you out. Well, I got him for a knockout. But when I saw that film, I automatically thought of the Pacino speech and the Willie Beeman music video. Because I'm Willie Beeman. I love the fact that you played it because I was actually thinking about using it as our lead-in. But the Jim Brown, I don't have strokes, I give strokes, always cracks me up.
I mean, there's the movie is long. So, I mean, I could sit here and you could have chopped it down for an hour and made it a better movie, I think. But that being said, you could also, what we used to do back in the day, which nobody does this anymore, nobody, but you'd sit there and take DVDs and just watch the cool parts of the movies. And there are some cool parts in this movie. And I'll argue with you about Oliver Stone at another time. So let's move on.
Oh, man. Let's move on to our next one, man.
Featherstone's off to the races.
Don't throw it to Stonehenge!
He's wide open. But that's nothing new. Can he catch the ball?
He caught it! Oh my God! Featherstone caught the ball! It's a touchdown!
1991's Necessary Roughness, directed by Stan Grogotti, who also directed one of our favorites, Mr. Mom, Dirty Little Billy, The Man with One Red Shoe, which I thought was a crazy name, and She's Out of Control. The film stars Scott Bakula, Hector Elizondo, Harley Jane Kozak, Larry Miller, Robert Logosha, Sinbad, and Rob Schneider. The film had a box office of $26 million on a $13.5 million budget. This is a film I discovered on USA Up All Night. I happened to come on, and I'd never seen it before. And for some reason, I just thought it was hilarious. Jason Bateman's in this film, like an early appearance by him. Rob Schneider is actually likable in this role as the announcer. It's just about a team that basically, a football program that basically gets screwed over because their players are taking money from donors and they're on steroids. They win the championship and they get banned. They bring in a coach, Stray Arrow Gennaro and Hector Elizondo, to come clean up the program. And you have Scott Bakula as a 34-year-old freshman they bring out from the cattle, who's this badass football player in his teen days. And they're basically trying to win their first game, and they get better as they go. And who can forget Kathy Ireland as Lucy? I like this film a lot. It always, I still watch it every once in a while. I actually wrote a blog about it. One of the famous lines is, "We like to partay." So it's an enjoyable film. Kathy Ireland's awesome. Scott Bakula is awesome. Sinbad is awesome. It's a fun one. What do you think about this one, Tom?
Why doesn't anybody ever talk about Paul's brother, Marcus Giamatti, who stars in this movie as Sargi Fumbelina Wilkinson? Not many people know that Paul's got a brother, but he does, and he's in Necessary Roughness. Sinbad, awesome. Around this time period, again, another box I remember seeing at the video store, and I just stared at it because of the cool football with the mustache and the hat, and just a really fun movie.
Yeah, definitely. Sarge also had like an obsession with the military. In his locker, it said, "Saddam, this bomb's for you," and they had like pictures of Colin Powell. And there also, he couldn't run a running play. They try to give him a handoff, and he just gets stuff every time. Also, Samurai. Their only defensive player was Samurai, who just goes and kicks the shit out of people. He was a linebacker. It's just a fun film. They're playing Iron Man football. Robert Logosha is hilarious as Wally. It's not the greatest film, but to me, it's like a classic. It reminds me of, like, even though it's 91, it gives me that 80s feel, like the 80s feel of comedy. And that's why I enjoyed it so much.
It does. It gives you that feeling of I always say it so many times, but it's a feeling that I don't know if you could even emulate anymore.
You put a whole set of encyclopedias on Sean Fez. Yeah, he was a big man, and it's Andre Krim, big dude, and he was a vegetarian. Remember, he told Rob Logosha, Andre doesn't eat meat. Andre's a vegetarian. But yeah, definitely check this one out if you haven't. It's one of those, it even have a great appearance by Dick Butkus, who might show up in one of our other movies later on. Dick Butkus is in the film, as well as Evander Holyfield. Who else is in there? Tone. I think Jerry Rice, Tony Dorsett, I think, is in it. Earl Campbell, I know, was in it for sure. Here we go.
Herschel Walker, Jim Kelly.
Yeah, they're all in as the cons, and when they tackle the shit out of Scott Bakula, he goes, "What are you in for?" And the guy's like, "Computer fraud." That was always cracked me up. But yeah, it's definitely a fun film that gives you that 80s feel. Sinbad's awesome. And like Robert Lagosha going off is prime Robert Lagosha.
Oh yeah. I just think of him as Feach. So
Feach, yeah. And this one, he gets the Feach in this one too. Like, stop being, we gotta attack the damn ball like an animal. Let us pray.
I know you don't like the movie and you've said negative things, but he is amazing in Scarface.
No, he's not.
He is.
I love Robert Lagosha.
He is. He's really awesome in that role.
Because he was a stoolie.
You also like the Blair Witch Project, so never mind.
I do like the original Blair Witch Project.
But I bet if we lined up a bunch of people, we'll find more people that like Scarface than the Blair Witch Project.
I'm sure they will, and that means a bunch of people will be wrong. But let's get to your next one, man.
Let's do it.
I'm angry. I'm spitting angry. I'm like a tornado of anger, swirling about. My heart rate is dangerously high right now.
Wait, this isn't a football movie. Well, it
is
a
a football movie
because there's two types of football. There's football Americano and there's football in Europe, which is soccer. So 2005's Kicking and Screaming, directed by Jesse Dillon, who also did American Wedding, How High, and Soros. The film stars Will Ferrell, Robert Duvall, Kate Walsh, and the coach Mike Ditka, and a box office of $56 million and a $45 million budget. Tell me why you picked this one.
Movie surprised me. At the time, I did not think that this movie was going to really be any good, but kind of like The Little Giants, it's kind of, to me, along of the same kind of formula. I like just the interludes between him and Robert Duvall. We've talked about Robert Duvall before on the show, but this is Robert Duvall in a comedy role, very, very serious. But I also like Will Ferrell too. I think he does a good job. Honestly, I'm not the biggest Will Ferrell fan. I think he's downright stupid at times, but in this movie, I think he tries to play it one of his more straighter characters, besides some of the more serious movies he's released. But I enjoy, again, just the sports aspect. And I was thinking when we were going to do the show, are we ever really can we ever do a 5-on-5 soccer show? They made that many movies? I love Mean Machine. There is a couple other movies that have soccer in it. So I said to myself, how do we sneak this in? That's also the reason why I picked it, because I don't know if we'll ever be able to talk about this movie besides on this show tonight.
Well, if we do a Will Ferrell deep dive, I mean,
that's true. But I will never vouch for that. So you'll have to come to me for a 5-on-5 Will Ferrell, and that will be the least, as I just stated.
This is a film that doesn't get talked about a lot in terms of Will Ferrell's filmography. It's kind of one that kind of hides under the radar, which kind of surprised me that this film actually made money with $56 million on a $45 million budget. I saw it twice, both with my younger cousins while we watched it. I thought it was okay. Mike Ditka was pretty hilarious in it. I just remember, like, there's a scene where Robert Duvall's punching a ball, like the ball that spins, and he just looks so old. And like seeing Robert Duvall like kind of be like the grandpa of age, it's like when I watched The Judge. I remember him in The Godfather and him in Colors. Like, he's always kind of the older guy, but when he got old, I'm like, man, this guy's getting super old. So it kind of like put me in perspective to go back and watch his other films, because he's a phenomenal actor. He also did was he in The Apostle, right? He did The Apostle. Yes, that was a good film too. But this film, like you said, Ferrell plays more of a straight character, though he does have his goofy parts in it. I enjoyed it. It's a kid's movie, but it's enjoyable.
I mean, Roger Ebert, I'll say he gave it 3 out of 4 stars, which is probably what I would give it. And he calls it, just an entertaining family movie. When I saw it, we were waiting for a party to go down at Ball State, and we were just sitting there on the couch. And we were, just started watching this movie, and it surprised me because I had no interest to probably ever watch this movie. I wasn't sitting on that couch at that moment. And sometimes a movie you have to be put on at a time where you're not really going to watch it. But again, I enjoy the performances in this one.
I don't know why, but when you're like, I was sitting on the couch, I automatically in my head spawned the scene from Billy Madison when he's trying to spell when the girl has to spell couch and she's like sounding it out wrong. He's like, wrong. I don't know why it just popped in my head, but yeah, this one's a good one. It's a kids film, but it's a good one, like a nice little hidden gem to check out from Farrell's filmography. And most of his films aren't really kid friendly. Besides Elf, a lot of them had a lot of adult jokes in them. But this one is a good one to watch with the kids.
Very good.
Good pick.
Thank you.
And let's go into our next one, my friend, with one of your favorite lines.
Your attitude's wrong. Your tone of voice is wrong. This is your opportunity
For
here.
you, playing football at West Canaan may have been the opportunity of your lifetime, but I don't want your life.
1999's Varsity Blues, directed by Brian Robbins, who also did Norbit, Meet Dave, The Perfect Score, one of my favorites, Ready to Rumble, and Hardball, which is another one of my favorites. The film stars James Van Der Beek, Jon Voight, Paul Walker, Scott Kane, Ron Lester, Richard Linebeck, Amy Smart, Ali Lauder, and Thomas S. Duffy, and a box office of $54 million on a $16 million budget. This film was all over the place in MTV for the MTV Movie Awards. You gotta remember Dawson's Creek was huge at the time. James Van Der Beek was the pretty boy of TV. It cracks me up that he has a Texas accent in here. But one of the things that drew me into this film was actually the way that football scenes are shot. It's actually shot really, really nice. Gives you that Texas Friday Night Lights feel. It reminds you of high school. If you've ever gone to high school football games, I've gone to a bunch of them at Rita. It gives you that feel. You have characters that are pretty hilarious, like Tweeter in Scott Cahn's character, Billy Bob as Ron Lester. You got Jon Voight. Every time I see Jon Voight, I cannot not think of him as Cerrone, but as the coach, Bud Kilmer. And then you got James Van Der Beek as this, talented quarterback who only happens to start because Paul Walker gets hurt. And Paul Walker really broke his leg. It's pretty crazy when I read that. He actually broke his leg. But this film is also iconic, not just for the James Van Der Beek, I don't want your life line, but also the Ali Lauder bikini whipped cream get up that people have talked about even now. And it's crazy when I was doing research for this, that scene is one of the most iconic scenes in film history and possibly the most iconic moment of Ali Carter's career. And this is her film debut. So Ali Lauder's career. So that's if I was an actress, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, no, it's not what you want. I mean, especially if you start to have a family or kids or excellent soundtrack. Soundtrack's got 15 tracks on it. You got Loudmouth leading it off of Fly. Nice Guys finished last with Green Day, My Hero by Foo Fighters. I mean, the soundtrack was great, including Hot for Teacher with Van Halen, a really good spot in the film with that. Honestly, you picked some of the best football movies of all time. This is definitely, I would put in the definite top 3. I love the American Pie movies. So I could say this gives me another feeling like that. It's teenage angst. It makes you could look and find yourself in a character in the movie. Scott Caan is great. Always been a fan of Scott Caan. Does a good job in this. Jon Voight, man. I'm not saying Academy Awards, but where were the Academy Awards? I mean, he just plays the role such like a scuzz that I think he just does. And he is, well, I don't want to judge Jon Voight I haven't met him, but from what I see, he seems not to be somebody that we would get along too well with. But that being said, he's a great actor. Like you said about Roman Polanski, I don't really like him much about his person, but got some pretty good movies.
Yeah, Sam says, I did what we did in the biz called foreshadowing earlier. Yes, Sam, you were foreshadowing. Ron Lester, who plays Billy Bob, went on to parody his role in another teen movie as Bobby Bill or something like that, which I thought was hilarious. He also lost a ton of weight. He's in another film from my childhood called Good Burger. He was Spatch That's a spatula.
Well, times I've seen that. That's awesome. He's in that. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he's the cook.
That's awesome.
But yeah, this film is it's one of the teenage growing up films. I was 14 when this film came out, so of course I watched it. When reading about research for this film, Daniel Stern was originally going to direct the film. Now, Daniel Stern, who we know as Lloyd from probably the Home Alone series, or a lot of people don't know he did the voiceover for the Wonder Years. He was actually the voiceover for that. He only directed one
Chud
film
too, if you like horror films.
Yeah. Oh, yes, he is in Chud. He was also directed one film, and that was Rookie of the Year.
That's right.
So the fact that he was going to direct this film makes me laugh because it would have been totally different. But he got fired, so he couldn't do it. But yeah, this film is just a bunch of nostalgia from the '90s. I do love all the football scenes in it. I actually sometimes will pop it on just for the football scenes because the action in it's really good. I also love the soundtrack too. Loudmouth Air is like a great tune. I actually remember when this came out, I had, I didn't have Kazaa like a lot of people did. I had used SoulSeek, so I actually ripped the album from there to play it. And I would play this album while I did homework or whatnot in high school.
It's a movie that to me it doesn't really get old at all.
Mhm.
It's timeless. It's a timeless movie.
For sure, man. I really like this movie. But let's go into another film that is timeless, my man. Your next pick.
Now we're 4 points behind. We can push right past these guys, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now you don't sound very convinced. Come on, don't you guys have any pride?
Yeah.
Don't you have any guts at all?
Yeah.
All right then, get out there and get tough.
Yeah.
Get mean.
Yeah.
These Cougars will be nothing but a fur ball when we get done with them.
Yeah. Let's go eat some pussy. Yeah.
1986's Wildcats, directed by Michael Ritchie, who did The Golden Child, Fletch, The Island of 1980, and Cool Runnings. The film stars Goldie Hawn, Swoozie Kurtz, Robin Lively, Wesley Snipes, Tab Thacker, Bruce McGill, James Keach, and Woody Harris. The movie had a box office of 26 mil. Tone, tell us about Wildcats, my man.
I had a choice. It was either going to go with this or I was going to go with our other main man, Kurt Russell, in The Best of Times with Robin Williams. But I picked this one because, again, I like movies where, especially in the 80s, where they're throwing you for a curveball. So this movie throws you for the curveball because Goldie Hawn's going to be the coach of this football team. Great performances by Woody Harrelson. LL Cool J's even in it, lower down in the cast. He plays a rapper, a real small role in the movie. Nipsey Russell as the principal, Ben Edwards, does a really great job. Again, reminds me of an 80s more, I mean, it's not as tight as Varsity Blues, but another 80s movie taking place that you really can kind of enjoy the characters. Okay. Taking place in Chicago too is really kind of cool in the plot because, well, we're kind of from near there. But again, great performances by everybody. Goldie Hawn does a really, really, really good job. I like reading always negative reviews of movies that I enjoy because it makes me laugh. Gene Siskel says pathetic sports comedy. Like, again, we're not trying to rewrite the wheel here. Again, you just need to fall for the fact that Goldie Hawn's going to be coaching these guys, and that's the interaction and the humor. So I actually like that kind of stuff. And when I see stuff like that, it doesn't make me mad. It makes me laugh. Like they must have had a bad day that day to judge this and watch this movie because it's loose and it's fun.
I love Gene Siskel. He could be wrong. I mean, Roger Ebert can be wrong too.
Oh, yeah.
It's all like film is all subjective, so it depends. I mean, I do think they like we talk about critics, they're the best of all time, but like even like when we had talked to Roper, he said, it's all subjective. He's not the be all end all film. He's just giving his opinion, just like you and I. I don't like Scarface. You like Scarface.
Oh yeah.
This film I think is pretty awesome because it takes the element of football and then you throw in a female coach into the, you know, there, and it's something different. And I always thought that was kind of cool. Of course, I love Goldie Hawn. Uh, one, I love her movies, and two, she's married to one of my favorite actors of all time, Kurt Russell.
Well, I
Um,
mean, you go and you look, and somebody else says this.
Mhm.
This was another reviewer. Roger Piandosi said, "A slick, fitting, charming little comedy that does nothing to deter those of us bent on being fond of Goldie Hawn forever." So, I mean, like that's it. Like I love Goldie Hawn. Overboard, I love. You could put Goldie Hawn as just
House Guest.
Yeah, House Guest is great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what it comes down to. Is like that's it too.
Yeah, and it's a fun film. You have 2 debuts. One, the credited film debut of Woody Harrelson, and then you have the debut of Wesley Snipes, who went on to have big careers, and they eventually did Money Train together, which I thought was hilarious.
That White Man Can't Jump.
Yeah, White Man Can't Jump, another film. You have LL Cool J in here who did a song, a football rap, which appeared during the opening credits, but didn't make it to the soundtrack, which I thought was kind of weird. When I read this, it's one of those films that tried something different. It has comedy in it. It has a player that takes money to play in Finch and Tad Thacker, and I always remember him from Police Academy movies.
Oh yeah.
But it's something to try something different, and it was enjoyable. It had its funny moments, and Goldie Hawn is awesome, and it's based in Chicago. Like, how can you hate on it?
That's true. Very true.
Yeah. So this is a good pick, Tone. Beef Loaf talks about this film all the time.
Classic. He knows the good stuff.
Yes, he does. This was the second sports film released by Warner Brothers until the end of the decade, which started with Vision Quest in 1985, and then they followed with Over the Top in association with Canon Films. They have Bloodsport in 1998, again in association with Canon Films. Everybody's All American in 1988. Stealing Home in 1988, and your favorite, and I'm not Larry's favorite, Candy Shack 2 in 1988. But yeah, this is a good pick, man.
Oh, very awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Let's go on to our next one, my guy.
You, Alvin, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, this is Mississippi State's offensive set. 2nd and 2 on our own 24. What defensive set might we call?
Eagle Zipper Hero, unless the setback shifts into the eye.
Good. 3rd and 7.
Okie Thunder Lion,
What's your assignment?
kill the quarterback. Hit the tight end so hard his girlfriend dies. Kill everybody.
1993 is The Program, directed by David S. Ward, who also did Major League 1 and 2, King Ralph, Down Periscope, and he wrote The Sting and Sleepless in Seattle. This film stars James Caan, Halle Berry, Omar Epps, Craig Schaefer, Andrew Bryniarski, and Dwayne Davis. The film had a budget of $15 million and a box office of $23 million. This is kind of funny because I had Varsity Blues with Scott Caan and James Caan's in this film, and I had Necessary Roughness, both films that have Dwayne Davis in it, which I didn't realize that until now. But Dwayne Davis is a totally different character in this film than he is in Necessary Roughness. Necessary Roughness, he's a wacky wide receiver. In this film, he's just a badass linebacker. The Program is more of a serious, take on college athletics and mostly college football when they're getting paid by the boosters and what certain college programs can possibly go through to have their players pay. Dwayne Davis, his character in here, was basically didn't even know how to read, but he was getting in a college, big college program because he could play football, and that's basically why he was at that university on a full ride. But he couldn't read. They make fun of him in it. And then, of course, you have Bryniarski, who is the fucking steroid ass dude that is like, he was pretty freaking scary. And even watching this film back, like, that dude was gigantic. The part where he puts the skeleton makeup on towards the end, and he's just screaming, I'm like, holy shit, dude, that guy is ridiculous. It has Christy Swanson in this, a young Halle Berry, a young Omar Epps. Really, really different film. Not a completely great film, but I like the way they try to do something different and try to show like that collegiate sports can be corrupt, which I thought was pretty cool. What do you think about this one, Tom?
I mean, this is probably the top of the peak of my football movie enjoyment, like because it's full of ridiculousness. It's also full of like some pretty okay performances. Like James Caan does a really good job in this movie, I think, as the coach. But James Caan is playing James Caan. You know, again, another actor. For me, you could put him in pretty much anything, and he does a pretty good job. Again, it's a time period piece for me because I watched it like the year it came out. So like for me, shouldn't have been watching this at 12 or 13, but I'm watching it. And honestly, what I remember always and will always remember is the steroid dude. And we would talk about it all the time because the way he just acts in this movie is completely ridiculous. And honestly, that's what makes it even more ridiculous, his character, when he traps Matthew Modine in the toilet on any given Sunday when he's taking a crap and he traps him in there because he's trying to give him the IV in the toilet or whatever. It's just, again, ridiculous performances. And this is a really great early 90s indication of some, some good football college in a movie.
Yeah, that him... like the part where he's with the girl.
That's
like,
what I was going to bring up, and I didn't even know how to say it. It was just so like, whoa!
Like he's gigantic compared to her. And it's like scary.
Off topic, I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but if you've not yet, I'm going to find it and we're going to watch it. Have you ever seen the After School Special? It was about steroids. It was on ABC. It was in the early 90s. And, well, it stars Ben Affleck. And he is... in high school, and he gets involved with steroids, and it's like high school Ben Affleck's version of this character. Look this up if you get a chance and watch some of him in that. Like, there's this scene where Affleck again, his girlfriend's in the room looking through his stuff, and she finds his steroids, and he loses it, kind of like just over the topness. Which
Body to Die For?
Yes. That is the name of the movie. I forgot the name, but we would always talk about that movie too, because I'd never heard of that. And a friend in high school was like, "You ever see that movie with Affleck where he's got steroids?" I'm like, "No." But again, I don't want to make jokes because steroid abuse is not funny. But again, this is where it leads you if you do it. So it's like, that's why I've always been like, when people do steroids, I automatically think of the guy in the program. That's
definitely. Like,
I've lifted weights, so it's like not like, oh, okay, I don't do that. It's just more of a little over the top, not the Stallone version.
Yeah, this one is definitely this guy definitely plays a role to the max. I did find the main character, what's his name? Craig Schaefer's Joe Kane. His line was really corny. Let's put the women and children to bed. I always it was always so horrible. But one of my favorite parts I loved about the film though was when it's the final play and he goes to quiet down the crowd and it gets super quiet. Like you hear a pin drop before they snap the ball, which I thought was pretty awesome. But yeah, totally a different, unique film. A lot of good football action too. And Alvin Mack by Dwayne Davis is my favorite character in the film because all the shit talking he talks to the other players as he's about to tackle them, because he makes up scenarios in his head to get mad at them, kind of like pre-Waterboy, like a normal Waterboy, but it's just funny. But yeah, if you haven't seen this one, check this one out. It's definitely worth the watch.
I gotta always bring up, because now we're gonna do a tie-in here, and I'm gonna bring it together. You recently, for our what we have been watching, had talked about the Roseanne Halloween episodes. Now, do you remember when they did the flashback and Dan was in high school? This gentleman here on the screen next to the cutout, he was the one who played high school Dan.
Yeah.
Which honestly, this dude, since I've seen him as high school Dan, and then in this, I'll always think of him as high school Dan. So again, great movie you picked here. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, he was in a Fred Flintstone costume.
Yes.
Which is kind of funny because John Goodman played Fred Flintstone.
That is true.
But yeah, crazy stuff, man. But let's get into your next one, my man.
No one can stop a ticking clock but the great ones, the great ones always find a way to slow it down.
2014's Draft Day. That's the best clip I could find. That wasn't you pancake eating motherfucker. This movie is directed by Ivan Reitman, who did Ghostbusters 1 and 2, Kindergarten Cop, Stripes, Junior, and Evolution. The film stars Kevin Costner, Chadwick Boseman, Jennifer Garner, Frank Langella, which is we talked about him in Ninth Gate, Patrick St. Espert, and Chai McBride. The movie had a budget of $25 million and a box office of $29 million, with $12 million in home video sales. Tone, tell me about the Draft Day, my man.
This is another one that not Larry, if you're out there, I know you like this one. But that being said, I again stumbled on this one. It was on back when HBO used to be an actual channel that played movies repeatedly, and I had cable. I would love to catch movies that like I had no interest in watching, and then I'd be like, okay, this isn't terrible. Now, this movie could be weighted as terrible by some. I enjoy it because, again, it's just there's a lot going on in this movie, which I bet there's a lot going on an actual Draft Day. But just a lot of actors that are just in this movie and play great roles from what I mean they're trying to do. There's also an underlying, what I'm trying to say is there's some cheesiness to it. I mean, come on, man. Dennis Leary is the head coach of the Browns. I mean, there just was a stand-up special, and Dennis Leary is in at least the top 30 of stand-up comedians of all time. So to see him playing a serious coach, a head coach of the Browns, nonetheless, I really, really like Jennifer Garner in this movie. If I was friends, and I don't know her personally, but if I was friends with Ben Affleck, that was always something that really bothered me, is we'd probably get in a fist fight because Jennifer Garner just seems very, very nice, and like, why would you ever want to hurt her? And this is another movie where like I see her, and but that is acting, and she could actually be very scary behind closed doors. But that being said, the performances, Kevin Costner, I am a Kevin Costner fan. I think he does a good job in all of his sports movies, to different wide degrees. Easy, light on your feet movie. I don't know. I like it for its aloofness, I guess, which is not really something that people like movies for, which is what this is a movie that I can see people not liking, and I'm not going to come out on the winning end of trying to defend it. It's just, I like it I caught it at the right time, I think.
It's funny that you basically want to fight Ben Affleck because of Jennifer Garner.
I know. And honestly, there is not a whole lot of people I've ever said that, but I just always have seen she's just like, and everything I've seen seems so nice. And every time I see his face, he looks like he's upset or mad, and he's breaking up with Jennifer, the other one again, and he just doesn't seem happy. And he seems like a guy who, like, she just seems to be somebody who just probably wanted to be your normal wife, and he's somebody who he looks like he likes to have his fun. Sometimes
he's a recovering alcoholic.
Well, that's what I mean. So like, that's when you are, I could imagine, and I'm not, but I could imagine if you are an alcoholic or recovering alcoholic and you're in a relationship with probably your significant other's more of a straight and narrow, it drives you more away from that person generally, because sometimes, but that being said, Kevin Costner and her do a good job in this movie, and Cleveland Browns don't get a whole lot of love, so if I can give them some love in this this movie, because football movies are generally crazy how they actually pick the team that they're actually like rookie of the year. What made them pick the Cubs?
Because they were bad.
Well, I mean, I guess in that regard. Well, I guess in that simple regard, yes. I'm thinking in more of the regards. Why didn't they pick like the Pirates?
Well, they played the Pirates. He played for the Pirates, I guess, and there's a little league team.
Okay, but you know what I mean. My point is that it's a selling tool. So like, I don't really know why they made this movie the Draft Day. He was in charge of the Browns. They could have made it the Chargers.
Well, I'm gonna tell you why.
Here we go.
I had the answer to.
See, that's why I set you up for you, bro. I was waiting for you to bite. So go.
The movie originally centered around the Buffalo Bills instead of the Cleveland Browns, but the studio changed it to the Browns because the production costs in Ohio were cheaper. So it came down to money, Tony.
Look at which it always does, doesn't it? I could imagine that, Wrigley Field, even when they were sucking, still filled up the friendly confines. So of course they weren't make a movie of Rookie of the Year in the red, like of a team that nobody's gonna go see, Cubs Rookie of the Year.
My high school Spanish teacher was actually extra on Rookie of the Year, and she got kicked off.
Really?
Yeah, because they told her not to stare at the camera, and they were supposed to chant Henry at the camera, and she looked right at the camera, was like, Henry, Henry, and you're like, yeah, you gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
So that's pretty funny. This film though does have some stuff that was actually based on some true story. The trick used by the Washington Redskins of taping a $100 bill to the back of a playbook seemed to be inspired by a guy by the name of Jamarcus Russell. His coaches in Oakland did not believe he was watching the game film and once purposely sent him home with blank DVDs to watch. He returned claiming he watched the video and liked the game plan, obviously lying. And there was a similar story in the 1980s with Randall Cunningham. Both two totally different players. Cunningham was actually a better player than Jamarcus Russell in the pros. But I thought it was pretty crazy that they used that stories from those people and put them in here for how the playbook, because Bo Callahan, didn't read the playbook. And then, of course, the quarterback that Kevin Costner has sent the $100 back, which I thought was like, what the hell? Who does that? But I like this film. There's not a lot of football playing in it. There's a lot of footage. I love the analytical talk about it. I like the behind the scenes. I wish they would do something like this. Like Moneyball, I thought was awesome because they did kind of the building of a team. But I want to see like more in depth, like the off season, going to the GM meetings, stuff like that in baseball. Like to me, that would be a great like series. Like I thought Arliss was awesome for even though it was in more comedic fashion, but the sports agents, I want to see something like behind the scenes of like baseball, like going through that whole grind of staying up and researching players for drafting, and then going behind the scenes of meeting them, and then going to the winter meetings and do all that. I love that aspect. And I think this film kind of peeks a look behind the curtain for a little bit for us in terms of the GMs and how they go down the draft day. Now, everything in this film is kind of unrealistic. I don't think it would work out that way. But like I said, one of my favorite lines in the film is, "Come on, you pancake eating motherfucker." And this is the only PG-13 film to use the term motherfucker, which I thought was great. You also have Chadwick Boseman as Vontae Mack, and you always go with Vontae Mack. I love when he calls Kevin Costner's like, Vontae Mack supposed to be number 7 pick. He ain't no 10 pick. When he tries to talk him up. But they had a pretty sick team going into the season. They had the number 1 pick of Vontae Mack. They had a running back, and they had a punt returner to go along with all their picks, which I thought was crazy. So he wheeled and dealed. It had to be the Browns, so you give that feel good story. And unfortunately, they're in the shitter again, but maybe they'll come out of it. I don't know, as long as they get rid of their quarterback. But the screenplay for this film was featured in 2012's Blacklist, a list of the most liked unmade films of the year. And I agree, it's a awesome film. Also, Chadwick Boseman agreed to take the role of Vontae Mack after a Skype call he had with director Ivan Reitman. Boseman wasn't sure if he wanted to play another athlete or do another sports film after 42, where he played Jackie Robinson.
I like in the movie, that's what it was that I remembered. I liked Kevin Costner, like thinking about like his father in the movie too. And like his mom was around Ellen Burstyn. She does a really great job in the movie. Also does a good job in his limited role as Bo Callahan's coach at the University of Wisconsin, Mr. Sam Elliott.
Yes.
Just
Bo Callahan.
Bo Callahan. Again, just a fun in that way. Fun. What's not fun is you brought his name up earlier, and sadly, he's in this movie. Mr. Baby Oil himself, Sean Diddy Combs. He plays Agent Chris Crawford, the #1 draft prospect for Bo Callahan, which is a shame he's in this movie.
Yeah. I was like, man, why is Puff Daddy trying to get... I still call him Puff Daddy. Why is he trying to get these roles? But I did find it hilarious that you had Terry Crews playing the dad of the running back, which I thought was funny. And then, Frank Langlia, who, when he finds out they didn't draft Bo Callahan with the first pick, he walks into the office and he's like, "You son of a bitch." Like, that scene always cracked me up too.
What's crazy too is I wonder if Chi McBride from Let's Go to Prison, is this the same Chi McBride who is the president of the Seattle Seahawks in this movie? No, I'm just kidding. It's two totally opposite characters. Again, though, I like also the mixture of, like, you got John Gruden's in there. You got Ray Lewis. You got some NFL. I always like when they mix that in there too.
Yeah, adds realism to it. And Sam, I'm pretty sure you are totally correct that Draft Day is George McCaskey's favorite film, because remember, George McCaskey came out and told Bears fans he does not know a lot about football, which is probably why our team is in the shithole that it is in. Oh God, nice people, bad owners. Yeah, Chi McBride's actually in Suits. He plays this character called Terrence Wolf. He's a DA. He's like a anti-hero villain guy. Plays a dick awesomely.
He's a good actor. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he really is. Well, good pick, Tone. I really enjoy this one.
Thank you.
Let's move on to our last two, starting with mine.
I know you're tired. I know you're hurting. And I wish I could say something that was classy and inspirational. But that just wouldn't be our style. Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
Right on.
2000's The Replacements, directed by Howard Deutsch, who did Some Kind of Wonderful, Pretty in Pink, The Great Outdoors, and My Best Friend's Girl. The film stars Keanu Reeves, Gene Hackman, Brooke Langdon, Orlando Jones, Jack Warden, and Brett Cullen. The film had a budget of $50 million and a gross of $50 million at the box office. This is one of my picks. Another film that, when we talk football movies, really doesn't get mentioned a lot in terms of like the big top of the ones. This is one of my favorite football movies because it adds a sense of wackiness to football action. And I really like Keanu Reeves in this role as, for one, he's played a quarterback from Utah twice, from Ohio State twice, with Johnny Utah and Shane Falco. This film talks about a Sugar Bowl game that never happened. And the reason that they talk about the 1996 Sugar Bowl is because they didn't want to make any player that played in a Sugar Bowl to feel bad because Shane Falco apparently sucked. But it's kind of got like, this is kind of like a major league, watered down major league version of football. I love Gene Hackman as the old coach. It's got Nigel Gruff, who is hilarious. Jon Favreau as Danny Bateman, the SWAT team officer. Ryan Iffens, who plays Nigel Gruff, the kicker, which I thought was hilarious. And it's kind of based off a true story with the Washington team from '87 that had Joe Gibbs. I'm not going to say their name. I'm sorry.
No. That's why. Good job.
They had a team at '87 that went to the playoffs with their scab players, even though they claim this isn't. There's kind of conflicting reports about that. But Shane Falco was so good, meaning Keanu Reeves did so well as his character that he got a tryout offered to him from the Baltimore Ravens to actually be signed to their team. And this film was released in 2000. The Ravens went on to win the Super Bowl 6 months later. They said that he had real talent, but he just he couldn't do it. One more kind of somber note about this film: Michael Jace plays Wilkinson, and he's a criminal trying to reform, and Michael Jace is a real life criminal. He's in jail for some bad things. But it's kind of ironic that he played a criminal in this film. But Tone, what do you think about this one?
Classic. I mean, classic across the board. Again, I think when you look across the board at all of Keanu's performances, as you were kind of talking about Ferrell's kicking and screaming kind of being a little bit under the radar. This one is, I think, one of Keanu's under the radar performances, but like it shouldn't be. It's another one that I think I was watching it at a family birthday party and my cousin put it on. And another one I just had never sat and watched, and it's fun. I like the idea of the movie too. But these reviews that these reviewers put out, I have to read this one to you. This is Mr. Ebert, Roger Ebert. He gave it 2 out of 4 stars, but this is what he said: a slap happy entertainment painted in broad strokes, 2 coats thick. Again, that's a little hard. I mean, I don't think it's as thick as he's saying it is, because the point of the movie is it's like loose fun. You know what I mean? That's what it is.
Well, I'm gonna read you a review I just read right now. It's got a high rating from this person, but this is from College Kid 2008, which apparently he was still in college when he wrote this, 2007. He says, this movie ripped off Necessary Roughness. First off, this is a pretty good flick. Keanu Reeves gives a decent performance, and the rest of the cast does well within the course of the movie. The movie plot itself is a complete ripoff of the 1991 movie Necessary Roughness, starring Scott Bakula. From needing to start team over in this movie due to a pro strike, and the other due to college violations, to an old quarterback with the what if syndrome, even the love story portion. This film just updates and changes Necessary Roughness from a college football movie to a pro football movie. What do you think about that?
I'll tell you 2 things. I love Necessary Roughness. I think I might like this one a little bit more personally. I also, any movie that has Keith David in it and Jack Warden, I definitely think that gets a little bit more play. Keith David playing the president of the Players Union.
Yeah.
Mr. They Live himself, the thing. But no, I don't agree with that. No,
I don't think it's a ripoff of
they're 2
Necessary
different
Roughness.
kind of movies.
Yeah.
to me.
But Sam giving us some breaking news. He says, when my uncle Keanu came to me with the script, I told him it's good, it's gold, and go for it.
Wow.
So this movie would not have been made without Sam Reeves.
Wow, that is crazy.
So I believe Sam was like 2 years old when this film came out. So baby Sam telling Uncle Canoe, aka Keanu, go for it. Thank you, Sam, because this is one of my favorite football films. Also has a lot of funny scenes in it with the cheerleaders. You have the electric slide for the I Won't Survive. Just the introduction of characters when they go down the characters that were cut or didn't make the pros. When they do Jon Favreau's character, he just stuffs the guy's face in the fucking he's making meth in the boiling water. He's like, oh yeah, while he's doing it. It always cracked me up. And of course, Nigel, ole, ole, ole. The drinks are on the Grufsta. I love that character, but it's a fun film. If you haven't seen this one, check this one out.
Check it out.
And to close it up, Mr. Burton, we're going to go with this one.
You think you're so fucking cool, don't you? You think you're so fucking cool. Well, just once, I would like to hear you scream in pain.
Play some rap music.
1991's The Last Boy Scout, directed by Tony Scott, who did True Romance, The Hunger, Days of Thunder, Revenge, Crimson Tide, The Fan, and Emily of Estate are a few of the films he did. Starring Bruce Willis, Damon Wayans, Chelsea Field, Noble Winningham, Taylor Negron, Joe Santos, Bruce McGill, Halle Berry, and Chelsea Ross. This film had a budget of $43 million and a box office of $114 million. Now, people are going to say, Tony, this isn't a football movie. Tell them why this is a football movie.
Well, I mean, again, the backdrop of the film is football. So again, it becomes, is it like necessarily like Necessary Roughness where people are playing football? Well, there are people playing football, but the movie is about a football star who is temporarily not able to play because of an addiction issue, and he gets mixed in with Mr. Bruce Willis, who gives probably one of his greatest performances. But overall, what it is that it is just to me, a great mixture of, well, first of all, Tony Scott does a very good job. If you're a fan of Days of Thunder, which they've just announced doing a sequel of, and you like the way, like, in the race car is shot, the football scenes in this movie are shot pretty well. The movie opens with more football than actually that's in draft day. There is actually a whole football scene out on the field, rain's playing, and the coaches are coaching, everything's going on. And in the most insane thing I've ever seen in a movie, one of the football players takes out a gun and shoots somebody when he's running with the football, which gives it this huge 80s dark vibe. And honestly, there's just so many quotes in this movie that I remember at a way too young age.
Could happen to anybody. It was an accident, right? You tripped, slipped on the floor, and accidentally stuck your dick in my wife.
Again, I always just remember a lot of just ridiculousness in Bruce Willis in the way that he says it right after that. His wife goes, "Don't you got any dignity left?" And he goes, "Fresh out." He says it like the most calmest voice ever. But back to the football part of the movie, Damon Wayans, he's believable in this movie, I think, and this is the Damon Wayans that I know from In Living Color, comedy genius in a lot of different ways. But playing in a serious role, I think he nailed the part personally.
Yeah, I would say he did. Bruce Willis's one-liners and monologues in this film is hilarious. Just the opening thing about playing rap music always cracked me up. The part where when we first are introduced to his character and he wakes up after the kids throw the dead squirrel on him, and then he looks in the mirror and says, "Nobody likes you." Basically, to the mirror. That always cracked me up. This film actually set a little history because it was the first film in which a script writer sold a script for $1 million. According to Time Magazine, Shane Black was originally offered $2.25 million by Coracle Pictures, but decided to go with Warner Bros. For a lower but record-setting bid of $1.75 million so that he could work with Joel Silver, who had produced his script for Lethal Weapon 1987's film. This record stood for 67 days until Coracle purchased a screenplay by Joe Esterhazy, which became Basic Instinct for $3 million. Apparently, people are having issues with the boxing match. They can't watch it. So good job there, Netflix. But
they better not mess up Raw, or I'm going to be infuriated.
They're going to mess up Raw just because they know you want to watch it. This film cracked me up because the ridiculousness of the story, but also, Damon Wayans' character. And you see the kind of like that camaraderie between him and Bruce Willis. And the funny thing is, when I was reading about this, they did not get along at all. And it's crazy because Danielle Harris, who we know from the Halloween movies, also she plays a daughter in this film. She's also found Roseanne a couple episodes. She said when she first met Bruce Willis, she said on the first day of filming, after doing her first scene, Bruce Willis told her, "Kid, this is my movie. Don't upstage me." Although she initially thought that Willis was being mean, she later realized that that's just Bruce. He's just funny like that. He was actually paying me a huge compliment by saying that. I think she's being nice because a lot of people who've worked with Bruce, even though Bruce is probably one of my favorite action stars, have said he's not really a nice person to work with.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've definitely heard that too.
But this one's an awesome film. Shelley Marcone and Chelsea Ross as the Senator Baynard. So another crazy thing, Tone, is in the film we find out that like Bruce Willis used to work for Secret Service when Senator Boehner was his boss, and basically Senator Boehner was beating up a woman, and Bruce Willis knocked him out because he's beating on a woman. Well, in the original script, the entire third act was set on water. Also, Hollenbach's grudge with Senator Boehner was completely different from the movie. In the script, Hollenbach, who's played by Bruce Willis, was working security for the Boehner family when Louis Boehner, Boehner's son, kills a mother and her child in a drunken car accident. When Hollenbach refuses to cover for the Boehners, the president's son, they plant a kilo of crack in his house. Louis Boehner was also a villain in the script, and in the end, both he and his father die.
Oh,
and this film, I think, was a little bit better, but Shane Black and Tony Scott both said later years that the script that they originally came up with was better than the final film.
I like what Roger Ebert said about this one. He said, a superb example of what is a glossy, skillful, cynical, smart, utterly corrupt, and vilely misogynistic action thriller. I'll always remember, and I don't know if this made me stronger or it was more of a WTF moment, was when my father said to me, you're going to sit in this video store and I'm going to run home and you're going to wait till the copy of Last Boy Scout comes back. This is like right when it releases. And I go home and my mom comes home and she's like, what'd you guys do? And I go, Dad left me at the video store to wait for the Last Boy Scout. She wasn't very happy, but I'll always remember it. And then I got to watch The Last Boy Scout, and it was literally another just amazing movie that helped shape me. And the football parts in this at the ending, Bruce's little jig that he does at the top of the thing, just a really I like the all around. I actually like the ending of this movie a lot. The way when they're walking away and they're like, yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, definitely a good film. I enjoy this one. I love Dwayne Wayne's character. Halle Berry is beautiful in this film.
That song that it's been a while if you've seen the movie, the song that's playing when he first goes to the club and she's on the stage and it's like riding on the range.
Yeah,
with my horse. I always thought that song was just like, holy shoot.
And Eddie Griffin is actually the DJ.
He sure is.
So earlier appearance. Damon Wayans is known for putting younger up and coming comedians in his films, as most comedians are. He did the same thing with Bernie Mac and Mo Money. And again, Joe Santos, who's in this film, was actually in the film with Damon Wayans for Mo Money, which I thought was kind of cool. Another character I really like, Joe Santos's character. I loved him in The Sopranos as Angelo.
Oh, yeah.
Another actor that doesn't really get talked about a lot, but awesome dude. But yeah, Tone, this is a good film. Brought back a lot of memories for me.
Thank you. Classic.
Yes, sir. So that is our movies that we decided to go with for our football films. Some were American football, one was football in Europe, but they are all football. So I hope you enjoyed them. Let us know if we skipped one that you liked that we didn't mention in the comments, or just shoot us a tweet or I don't know what blue skies are called, blue sky thing.
I do have a couple though that were shared with us that I promised
Awesome.
I would share on the show here with us with you tonight, everybody. A couple. Frank the K shared Invincible and The Replacements. Invincible's not a bad football movie. Mailman Jack, a movie he stated was big fan. You ever see this one with Patton Oswalt? I have not.
No.
But I looked up the box and he looked really cool in it with he had like face paint. Because first I was like, big fan. He's a big fan of our show. And then I was like, wait a minute, that's got to be a movie. And it is obviously Patton Oswalt. So we'll have to check that one out. Sockside Pride, he picked Any Given Sunday with an Al Pacino gif. I believe your brother-in-law, he picked probably my favorite, The Program. Al, he picked that. Fitzmagic picked one that I was actually going to pick, but I could just not cry on air after my long week this week, and that's Brian's song, actual classic, another James Caan, which would have been crazy because we would have had two James Caans back to back.
Yeah, and I believe Jack Waters and Jack Warden's actually in that film as well.
Yeah. And our main man who was sitting in the comments, he picked probably, honestly, the best football movie of all time. Sam, he picked The Dark Knight Rises. Well, thank you, Sam.
I remember that part where the stadium falls apart. I thought that was so
He
cool
did. It
when
was
I
great.
saw it
It
on the
was-
trailer. Ah, that's a lovely voice. Oh, bang. So that was a fun topic, my man. Let's talk about what's coming soon, my guy.
Let's do it.
If I can find the video here.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Coming soon.
Próximamente.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
All right. Well, we got coming up for you guys next week. We are having what would be called Movie Friendsgiving, where we're going to have some people on and we're going to talk about maybe their favorite movie that they like to watch around Thanksgiving time, maybe instead of sports, maybe later at night. It was always something that was huge for me to go see a movie possibly on Thanksgiving night after we were done eating. I'm curious to see who we are able to get on and who we are able to talk to about this. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, just something a little different. We will be taking the week off after because it is Thanksgiving, and I wouldn't expect you guys to watch us on your Friday, after Black Friday. But I'll probably be overstuffed with food. I know
That's it.
Tony will be as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, something we thought of to do some fun, and then we'll go back into our regular scheduled program of deep diving into our next film. But this was a fun idea I thought of, and Tony, I'm happy you went along with it. It's always nice to get the listeners into
get involved
with us. Yeah. So look forward to that next week. We'll have that up. We'll be going live at 8:00. I'll be sending out. I've talked to a couple people. I know you're talking to a couple people.
Yep.
So we got some people lined up, but we got some fun stuff coming forward.
Yeah. And honestly, what I like is that we will, by probably the end of this year, have close to 40 episodes. And what we do is, in my head, and I know you feel the same way, is then next year we just take the next step. We keep growing and keep bringing you awesome movies and keep having a good time.
Yes. We are growing pretty well. We're up to, I believe, 692 subscribers now. We've grown.
What I want a knock at your door, and it's Joe Montana, and he's like, Tony sent me to just say hello. Like that's how big I want to be. Where you're like, Joe Montana's at my house. I didn't know he was coming.
And I'll tell him. I thought he was going to send Joe Montana.
Great. You ever see that Saturday Night Live when he hosted?
Yeah,
that's great.
I love Joe Montana. Joe Montana is actually one of my favorite films revolving around chess, and that is Searching for Bobby Fischer.
Bobby Fischer.
Yes,
that's actually a good movie.
Joe Montana is awesome. I always like to listen to his takes on sports as well. Actually, happy birthday to Joe Montana. His birthday was this week.
Yes. And if you have not got a chance yet, 2 movies that just this weekend have been released on streaming. If you did not get a chance to see Twisters, that's on Peacock. And this new movie with June Squibb that I've been really wanting to check out with it was Richard Roundtree's last movie. That just got released on Hulu. I'm going to come up with the name of it here because I just forgot. I watched the trailer before this, but it's honestly June Squibb. I turned to my wife and I said, one day we're going to be really sad and lost because we don't have June Squibb anymore. Thelma is the name of the movie. She gets her money that she has held on to her whole life gets taken, and the police tell her there's no way to get back. So she teams up with Richard Roundtree to try to get this money back. Looks ridiculous. But right now, my buddy who is live texting me while we've been doing this, as he watches Twisters, he has stated, I hate the cast. This is bad. I really dislike the cast. He just keeps saying that the cast is bad. So I'll have to watch this Twisters and get back to you maybe next week and see what I think of it.
Yeah, let me know what you think about it. I haven't seen it. I definitely will check it out. This probably not this week when I have time. I'll definitely check it out. But that is
Real
what
quick, before we go on, a movie like that could you work on a video while having it on, or is it something that you think you have to sit down and actually watch it? Like,
If I were, it depends. If it's you mean a video for it, or you mean just a video like in
just
general?
a bit like you were working on the Stan and Ali video that you're talking about. Like, could you put
No.
that on in the back? No.
No, I would have to, because it's new. I never seen it before. I would have, like, even when I was watching The Ninth Gate today, when I was working, in between like coding and whatnot, I took breaks during coding and I would rewind the film because there's certain parts, like integral parts of when he's comparing the books.
Yeah.
I have to look at. When newer movies, I really can't. Now movies like Gladiator that I can quote, and like The Crow or
Gotcha.
Son and Lost, all those films, I can leave them on in the background and just laugh because I hear little parts coming up.
I was always curious with that because, like, for me, like, I could put on Twisters in the background, and my main key is if I lift my head up more than 10 times and I'm that interested, I'll just start it again and watch it, like, actually sit and watch it.
Yeah,
If I don't do that, then I'm just like, well, maybe if Katie wants to watch it or something.
Like me personally, in terms of attention,
Yeah, I
if
know. Attention's hard when you're doing work.
when I'm working, it's like I have like this one track when I'm set on something, I have to
do it,
like get it done. And then when it comes to coding, like sometimes I can zone out everything around me. But I do have it on for background noise of other movies. But yeah, that's a good question. Like, I don't think everybody's ever asked me that.
Yeah, we fell into that one. So, very
Yeah.
good one.
But before we get to the Sugar Baggy soundtrack pick of the week, just want to do some housekeeping here. As you know, we will have a new show on Friday. We have Mailman Jack will actually be on that show too, Tone, bringing back the special delivery segment. So we'll have Mailman Jack on that
Let's
one,
see what he picks.
along with other guests. We had 2 getting draftees in here within a very, very short time span. We had one on Sunday where myself and Keelan did horror movie villains draft. That was a fun one. And then Brian did a show with Sam Reeves, who's in the comments, along with Nick Morowski of Good Guys Talk Back, as well as Socks and Sober podcast. Awesome dude. He's been done some stuff for us before on some of the pods. They did the comedian draft. Tone, did you agree with other comedians they drafted?
They picked a lot of good comedians. And honestly, at the top of the Hook Up on Music's list is actually Nick. I've been meaning to try to reach out to him because honestly, him going on with Sam and talking about the Doors. The Doors are one of my favorite bands of all time, and I would just love to hear the kind of conversations we would have. But the comedy picks were great. Of course, I did miss a couple of my favorites, but that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah. Sam asked, what do you think about Krasinski being the sexiest man alive? Tony, your breaking thoughts.
Oh, well, you know what? He's earned it. And like I always say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So obviously some people had to think he was sexy because they picked him.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you, I can give 2 shits about the sexiest man alive.
I mean,
but more power to him, man. More power to him, like Jim. Oh, Sam. But yeah, let's get into the soundtrack pick of the week, my man. Let me just find your thing here. The Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week.
I got a bad disease. Well,
you said you had a bad week, Yum. You know, how can I cheer up my good man? But maybe play a little Red Hot Chili Peppers. And you know what? Digging into this soundtrack, I had forgotten all of the different things that were on this soundtrack. All I really have always thought about was the Chili Peppers track. But when you dig deeper, there is a lot more going on this soundtrack, including Slash doing Magic Carpet Ride, which is ridiculous. You got Tainted Love, which was, that's always a good one. But Soul to Squeeze, REM doing It's a Free World, Baby. Paul Simon, Kodachrome. Digitable Planets doing Little Renee. A good soundtrack. One thing though, Yump, in a negative of our conversations is you've always seemed to put down that Red Hot Chili Pepper song every time I brought it up. You've always, what your comment has always been, that's a good song, but have you ever heard any of their other songs that were maybe lower hits? And I was like, I like that song quite a lot. And
Soul Squeeze?
yeah,
I love
know you
Soul
like the
Squeeze.
song. I know you like Soul Squeeze, but I know being a big fan of a band, a song like Soul Squeeze is probably more of a well-known song, and you often like to suggest unknown songs, which I appreciate because honestly, being as big of as fan as you are of the Chili Peppers, you've turned me on to quite a few B-sides. And when you've said that I did not know of, so I'm appreciative of you doing that. And I'm appreciative of this soundtrack. Coneheads is not a bad movie either. When you look at it, if you take the time and watch it again, it's a good time and a good little soundtrack.
Yeah, the only bad thing about Coneheads, I love the movie, don't get me wrong, is that it was just released, I think, like a little too late in terms of it was in the 70s when the movie was when the show was popular on SNL, and it's kind of got released in 93. So that kind of took away from nostalgia, I guess, from it. But I love that.
They use the same daughter anymore because she had been soul.
Yeah. Yeah, they used the girl from Major League 2 as a daughter. But the soundtrack is awesome. You know, Tainted Love, Soft Cell, which they made it seem like it was a brand new song in the movie. But I love the Soul Squeeze. I love you have, Little Renee. I love that song as well. Like this whole point of Soul Squeeze, like the reason that that song sticks out to me is because the Peppers had just broken up with Ashanti at the time.
Yeah.
The video has Chris Farley in it. It has that, traveling around circus.
Video.
Yeah.
Cool video,
And it reminds you of Carnival. You ever see that show on HBO?
Good.
A lot of good vibes there. And it's sad because it's a time where, they didn't have their, even though Frusciante's not their original guitarist, they had LL Slovak. He was very close to LL and he left. So it's a great song, but it kind of gives me like, oh man, it's when Frusciante left. And then he came back and then he left again. And now he's back again.
Melancholy. It's not only that, it's a melancholy song itself on top of, because if you're familiar with what's going on in the background, like the song doesn't necessarily leave me. And they play it on XRT all the time, and I listen to it all the time. It doesn't leave me going like, today's going to be a great day. It leaves you more of like, your soul's been squeezed. And I guess when you look at it, I guess that's probably how they felt when he was leaving the band.
Yeah, I'm really happy they patched up things with Chili Peppers, relationship wise, and then they got their demons out of the way. Sam says Netflix servers are crashing. Nobody can see the fight. Yeah, I was getting a bunch of tweets and texts about it, Sam. People bet on the fight, can't watch it, which I thought was they have to like this. I'm guessing this is their test run with live movie TV tone.
Well, they've done a couple other test runs and it's on other couple things, and it's every time it failed.
But this was never gonna be a big
How can you not get? Can I ask you a question? How at this point Netflix has had a streaming service longer than Hulu? I could be wrong about that, but how can they not have all the shit all worked out?
Well, there's a reason. Like money is one, upkeep, and Netflix, although it says it's getting more and more subscribers, its profits have kind of shrank a little bit. Also, it's kind of like reminds you of the video. I'm sorry if you're listening to this for movie talk, but in terms of technical talk, like the video game thing, like Destiny doesn't have dedicated servers. The game Destiny,
yeah,
expensive. I think they eventually did, but places like Call of Duty had dedicated servers for such an online platform of a lot of people playing. They probably didn't anticipate how many people were going to join. But for something like this, when you have a big name like Mike Tyson, I think you should have been prepared for it. But companies are going to try to, shave off money here and there. It's really expensive to have those servers, and the upkeep of them is ridiculous.
Gotcha.
Maybe.
Makes sense. Oh, it makes sense when you say it like that.
Yeah, maybe this will kind of increase their profits. And so maybe they'll have better streaming equipment. I remember the MLB streaming service when they first came out didn't really have too many hiccups because they invested a lot of money into it. Same thing with the WWE network, which was basically modeled off the MLB network. They use the same type of encoding and same type of bit rate and whatnot, which I thought was kind of cool. Okay, that's enough to get technical and nerdy. But yeah, it's probably one of the reasons. Netflix has gone from CDs to streaming completely, which is pretty crazy. I think they still offer CDs or DVDs. I haven't got one from them in a very long time, but hopefully we'll be able to watch this fight tonight. But that is our show, just under a 2-hour mark. So I'm sorry, Michael Cotton, we did not make it to 2 hours, but we'll do it next time just for you, buddy. Hope you're doing well, man. Shout out to everybody who watched, listened, liked, commented. Shout out to Sam Reeves, Mailman Jack, our man Baloney, Jenny, Miss Caitlin Reeves, Mrs. Queen Ass, I'm sorry, and everybody else who was in our comments and tweeted at us and participated in this show. We appreciate you guys. We have fun doing this, and we hope you guys have fun listening to us. We'll be back next week on Friday at 8. Tone just released a new Hook Up on Music, my man. Tell everybody what it's about before we get out of here.
Talking about the brand new Linkin Park album. You're looking about getting back to the late 90s, early 2000s. The new album sounds a lot better than the last couple Linkin Park albums. Check that out. Suki Waterhouse. We talk about Exodus. We talk about some Everclear. We talk about the sad passing of Quincy Jones. We talk about Lyle Lovett. Talk about how crazy it was that he got married to Julia Roberts in the middle of Indiana in the early 90s. We talk about a whole bunch of crazy stuff, but tune in, man. A lot of good musical talk.
Yep. Check it out. Check out the Hook Up on Music. He drops it every Friday. Sometimes he's live and sometimes he does it from the drop, just depending on how work's treating Tony, but he does a great job with the show. Be sure to check it out. Be sure to look out for my video as well as check out the Drafty Pods. And I know Brewhand Luke has some Talk of the Ducks podcast, dusting off some dust and getting back on. But thank you guys so much. Take it easy, and we will see you next week.
And before we go, we're hoping that maybe one day we can get Brewhand Luke to take us to every location that was in the program, and we could film ourselves there. No, I'm just kidding. That might not happen. Take care, everybody.
Right, take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the At the Show podcast, a Sadistic Penguin Studios production.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?